The New York Knicks traded away RJ Barrett. We actually talked about this recently and like RJ going to other places and stuff. So it's ironic that this happened. The Knicks trade RJ Barrett, Immanuel Quickley, and a second round pick for OG Anunoby, Precious Achua, and Malachi Flynn on the Toronto Raptors. So, new look New York Knicks, the big three of Brunson, Randall, and OG. And now RJ Barrett is back in Canada playing for the Raptors. Quickley is now going to be a full-time starter in Toronto as well. How do we feel about this trade, Jerry? Because I feel like when this trade came out, people were against the Knicks and what they did. People were pissed. They were like, Knicks lost this trade. And that's why I felt like all I saw. I think I have a different opinion on the trade and who walks out the victor and who doesn't here. But I want to hear your opinion first. Do you think it was a good trade for either side? Second of all, what do you think will come from these players that were involved in this trade?
I like it for both teams. I don't think it's an ideal like win-win trade. I don't think you really get those too often, but I think New York wins here primarily because you shed off like $30 million or whatever it was in cap space because RJ was making like a little over 100 while OG's making around $70 million a year for his contract. So
and Quickley was due for a contract. He's a restricted free agent this offseason. There was gonna be a team that was definitely gonna give him 25, 30.
Exactly.
For sure. Yep.
So the Knicks made a smart salary move here. The one part that I'm very kind of confused on though is the fact that the Raptors were seeking out like a Rudy Gobert, Donovan Mitchell kind of first round pick deal, right? That we were hearing that first. OG was supposed to be like a guy that goes for 4 to 5 first round picks.
Like months ago, when people were talking about him getting traded, people wanted three first round picks for him. Excuse me, I couldn't get that out of my mouth. I think that was the most surprising thing too, is just seeing like not how little, but how different of a return the Raptors got than what they made it seem like they wanted. I agree with you 1,000%. I think both teams benefited from this because one, the Knicks shed cap space, that RJ Barrett contract. We've talked about how he just hasn't been improving. He's just kind of always just been there, and he can't get to that next level.
Lost in the sauce.
That contract could have ended up being one of the worst in the league, right? Who knows? Quickley was going to be due for another 25, 30. So that's 50, 60 million you shed off. Now you get OG, who is, I think he's someone that will fit into this system better. And, you kind of lost like two key players in the offense and stuff, but I think you have a much better balanced offense now. I do think Brunson has a little bit more pressure on him now, a little bit more weight to carry because he loses his backup. But I think that they have enough pieces like Dante DiVincenzo, Hart, obviously Randall. They have, they have all these pieces and stuff where they're still deep enough where they have the offensive weapons. Guys have to step up. Grimes as well will have a bigger role.
Exactly.
I just think that they simplified their roster, their lineup. And I think like defensively it works. Like OG's a really good two-way player. And then we look at the other side of the coin. I think, and I texted you this, I tweeted on the Sitting Courtside Twitter, I was texting you about this. RJ Barrett, this might be his time where he becomes a star. Like maybe it was being in New York. Maybe that was the handcuffs or whatever. But now he's back in Canada. He's back home in Toronto. I think he's going to, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen now. And I think Quickley is going to become a stud too. I don't have to get into that. I think he's going to drop 20 plus. But I'm very excited to see what RJ does back in Toronto.
I think it's like first grade math, man. Like there is but so many basketballs to go around in a certain system. And like what Tom Thibodeau is running out offensively in New York, RJ Barrett wasn't really his services weren't necessarily required. You have your perimeter star in Jalen Brunson. You have a guy that wants to be a perimeter star but should be more in the post in Julius Randle. Two guys that pretty much operate pretty well with each other. The Knicks aren't a bad team this year. They're in the middle of the pack. But RJ Barrett literally got phased out the offense in times. So like you said, I think that's a perfect way to kind of summarize the trade for New York. They simplified things. OG is a guy that shoots over 40% on catch and shoot threes. OG is also a guy that can lock down the team's best perimeter player. And Tom Thibodeau is a guy that throughout his career has found these workhorses to provide at very high levels and hope they develop for the best. I think the best case example, Luol Deng, Jimmy Butler in both Chicago and Minnesota. And now he gets a guy like OG who has a similar kind of build. So Tom
Sure.
Thibodeau, you got your Luol Deng. When it comes down, when it comes down to Toronto, yeah, I agree. I think RJ should be in a situation where he could thrive in a younger system, but he's
Yeah.
going to still have to learn how to play off the ball because Scotty Barnes is the franchise guy.
He
I
is.
understand
Yep.
that RJ is the it's a feel good story. You grew up a Raptors fan, you love Toronto, blah blah blah. That's dope. You get to play for your city, but guess what, buddy? You got to put on for your city now.
That's true.
So
He does have to.
playing along with Dennis Schroeder, Immanuel Quickley, Scotty Barnes, Pascal, however much longer
For
he's going to
now.
be there,
Yeah,
and
for
got the
now.
Pirtle. That's a decent team. I don't really know what to expect out of RJ. I think I agree with what you said on Twitter. I agree with what you texted me. RJ should blossom into somewhat of like a B tier kind of star player that could move up into the A tier some nights, take over down the clutch, or make one or two All-Star games over his career. That's still there.
Right.
But I think it's just about culture at this point and not necessarily coddle the man, but do your best to develop him throughout the process while he's going to be in town because he's going to be there for the next 3 to 4 years. So,
yeah. He's signed up
Scotty
long term.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, and two, like, neither of these teams, I think, at least the Raptors aren't done. I think OG being traded kind of is them letting
First
people
down.
know that they're cleaning house. I think Siakam's coming, his time's coming. And the Knicks, what do the Knicks do now? Do they make another move, like to try to like add more to this roster? They try it because they have some draft picks, they have some stuff to work with, or kind of similar how we were talking about the Thunder. Do they hold out this season, work with this roster, then wait for the off season, see if any big hitters become available, and that's when you kind of empty out your treasure chest and try to get someone.
If something is there or somebody is there to take, I say New York swings at it as long as it actually has a positive impact.
Right.
Now,
Don't just do it to do it type of thing.
No. Like this OG trade, I think the writing was on the wall where we had RJ Barrett for X amount of years. We all were complaining whenever they gave RJ that money because he proved nothing. But it's kind of like, I think it's similar to OKC. I wouldn't mind them making a minor move to pick up another ancillary piece.
I would,
But
yeah.
they're like we just talked about them shedding off cap space. They're going to pay OG, sure, but there's also Donovan Mitchell that Stephen A. Smith has been wanting in a New York Knicks uniform forever.
Yeah.
There's also a Carl Towns that'll be available.
And
Again,
Joel Embiid that could be available.
Laurie Markkinen. The list goes on and on. It's a pretty good class that's coming up. PG and Kawhi.
Free agents, right? PG and Kawhi. Yep.
If things don't pan out in Clipperville, you could talk PG, you could talk Kawhi, you could talk Harden, you could talk West, whatever.
Yeah, pick one. Pick two if you want. I don't really see the Knicks making any other moves unless it's those minor ones that we were talking about. Just like a few role players, maybe a potential starter. I think this is a good move for both sides, at least for what we see right now, for what we've seen. I love trade season, so hopefully that's the first of many.